Hello everyone, and welcome to part 3 of creating your first Lotus Notes plugin. So let's review what we've done so far. In part 1, I showed you how to install the Expeditor Toolkit into Eclipse so you can begin doing plugin development for Expeditor-based products. In part 2, I showed you how to create a client services plugin project, and in that project we added a right-click menu to all context menus in Lotus Notes. In part 3, I'm going to show you actually how to, we're actually going to extend the plugin we created in part 2 by doing something specific to Lotus Notes, or taking advantage of some of the APIs that Lotus Notes offers. Because up until this point, our plugin project can actually be run in any Expeditor-based product. So you could actually run the same plugin in Symfony and same time. But now we'll take advantage of some of the APIs that Lotus Notes offers to do something a little bit cooler with our plugin. So let's just to review what we've done so far, let's start Lotus Notes here from Eclipse with our plugin running. We have Lotus is started, Notes is started, and we'll log in. And if we go to the home screen and right click, here's our context menu that we've added, and if we click on it, it just says Hello World. So we're going to build upon this and take advantage of some of the APIs inside of Lotus Notes, do something a little bit different. So we'll close Notes and go back to Eclipse, and let's go to our handler class in our plugin here, where we called it Hello World Handler. So if we open that, the class that we're going to use first here to do something, or to expand upon our project we have, is called Notes UI Workspace. So I want to create a new instance of that. So you can see here I've created a new instance, but we have some compile errors, and that's probably because Notes UI Workspace, that class, is not imported into our handler class yet. So let me organize our imports. You can see we still have some compile errors and that 0 imports are added. Now that's because Notes UI Workspace is actually a class that's located in another plugin. In order to use this class, we need to depend on that plugin from our plugin. So the way to do that is to go to the manifest and go to the dependencies tab, which we're already here. In the required plugins section, we want to add a required plugin. So click add, and the name of the plugin that contains the Notes UI Workspace class is com.ibm.notes.java.ui. So here's the plugin we're looking for, and we'll depend on that, and we can save this file. Now remember that this UI that you're seeing right here is just a pretty UI on top of the manifest file. So if we go back to the manifest file here and actually look at what it looks like, you can see we've added a required bundle to our manifest. You also notice that it's specifying which version of the bundle we need. This actually isn't required. We can take this off if we want, and it will still do the same thing. The reason why you would want a required bundle is because you may be depending on APIs that were only introduced in a specific version. So if in your plugin you were using APIs that were introduced in 8.5.2, for example, and the plugin would not run on 8.5.1, you would probably want to keep that bundle version there. That way when anyone goes to install their plugin or your plugin, if they're not running 8.5.2, they won't actually be able to install it. But for our case, we don't really need that, so we'll take that off. So let's head back to our handler here, And once again, we'll organize our imports. And you can see our compiler errors actually went away, and we have imported our Notes UI Workspace plugin. I'm sorry, our Notes UI Workspace class. Next, we need to, we actually want to get an instance of the current element being displayed inside of Notes. And what we're going to do is actually take the current element that's being displayed and take its title and then put it in the message box. Now, an element could either be a document or a view that's currently open. So we'll get the title of the document or view that's open and put it in the message box that comes up. So we want to get an instance variable of type Notes UI element, and the way we do that is to say workspace.getCurrentElement. And once again, we need to organize our imports, so we import the Notes UI element class. And you can see we've imported that class now. And the good thing about this is we didn't actually have to change the manifest at all this time. And that's because Notes UI element is actually in the same plugin as Notes UI Workspace. So now that we have the current element that's open in the workspace, we'll actually print out its title. Say the title of the current element is element.getTitle. So this will be the message that gets printed out when we right-click on our context menu. So let's start Notes again and see how it works. And I'll enter my password to log in. And let's open a database I've created to do some testing with. So I have a temporary notebook database. We'll open that. And so here we are on the view, and I can actually right-click in the view here. Actually, I think we need to make a document first. Create a document. And now let's right-click. There we go. So we'll go down to our Hello World command. And you can see the title of the current element is Notebook by category. And you can see actually in the title bar that is what the title of the view is. So we can close this. And now let's try with a document open. So we have our test document open, and we'll right click again and click on our Hello World command. And you can see the title of the current element is test document, which is exactly what the title bar shows as well. So now let's try actually doing the same thing on the home page. So right click on the home page and go to Hello World command, and as you can see, nothing has come up. So we might have a problem here. So when something like this happens, you want to go back to Eclipse and inspect if anything's in the console. And you can see we have some red here in the console, and if we look at what's happening here, you can actually see a null pointer exception was thrown. Now Eclipse does a really good job of telling you where the exception was thrown at. And we can see here at the top of the stack actually our Hello World handler threw the exception in the execute method. So if we click on this link right next to that line, it will bring us right to the line of code where the exception was thrown. Now I'm not really sure what's happening here, so let's set a breakpoint and see and step through the code and see what might be going wrong. So you can set a breakpoint by just going over to the side of the Java class in the editor and double clicking, and we'll put a breakpoint, and that's what that blue dot means there. So now if we head back to Notes, and we're on the home page again, and we'll right click and go to our Hello World command, Eclipse actually jumps up and gives focus and says that we've hit a breakpoint and asks us if we want to switch to debug perspective. So I'll switch to debug perspective in Eclipse, And you can see this perspective looks a little bit different than our plugin development perspective. You have a little bit extra information here. So you can see we have the current stack of where our breakpoint is, and we have any variables that have been set at that point in the code. You can also take a look at other breakpoints that you might have set in your code or in your project as well. So you can see Eclipse has actually stopped us right on the line of code where we set our breakpoint, and we're about to create our new Node2i workspace class. So if I step over to the next line of code, we can see that Node2i workspace, our Node2i workspace object seems to have been created correctly. So let's step to the next line of code, and I think I see the problem here. We can see that element is actually null at this point, and so that's not good. So because we're going to be calling element.getTitle at this line, and that's what's going to throw our null pointer exception. So let's click play here and go back to our code, and let's make some changes here to avoid having that null pointer exception thrown. So it was element that's null, so let's do a check for null on element. We'll say if element is not equal to null, then go ahead and open the message box. And we'll just format this code a little bit. So now we can just save our hello world handler. And a really nice feature of Eclipse that Eclipse has when doing debugging on plugins is called hot code replace. So even though I made this change while Notes is still running, you can see here that in the debug perspective that Notes is still running at this point, and I just made a change to my code. It will actually replace the current code that's compiled and running with this new code here. So I don't have to stop Notes and relaunch it just to test out my change that I just made. Now this won't always work for all changes, but for most changes, simple changes like we just did, hot code replace will work fine. And you'll actually get a message from Eclipse if Eclipse can't replace the code that you just changed, or replace some of the code that you just changed anyways. So we'll go back to Notes and test out our fix. So click on Hello World command. We've hit our breakpoint again, so let's step through this code. We see our Node2i workspace object was created correctly. Our element is null, so we shouldn't ever get in this code here. We should skip over that code. And actually, let me clear the console just to prove to you that there's no exception being thrown anymore. And you can see we skipped over that code, and we're just going to return null at this point. So there's no exception thrown, and we've avoided that nasty exception that was happening. But still, as you can see, I click on something, and since we skip over the message box code, no message box gets put up at all. So this isn't the best UI behavior. There's actually, what you would actually want to do is have this command actually not visible or not enabled when the object that you're right-clicking, or the current element open in the workspace, is not a view or document. And there's actually ways to do this, but it's a little bit more advanced, and I'll leave it up to you. The hint is you can actually work with adapters in Eclipse and check to see if the current element is null or is a document or a view. Now, we've done our debugging, and I've showed you how to take advantage of some of the APIs inside of Notes. And the last hint I have for you is to actually go and check out what's in this plugin, what's in the COM IBM Notes Java UI plugin. This plugin provides a ton of supported and public APIs that for Notes, and there's Java.Doc Online, which I will link to in the blog post and on the wiki.